Good morning, everyone. This is Gina, and today is March 1st. I'm getting a good start to the month. It was the final day yesterday for my rotation on my children's garden. And so today, before I start something new, I'm going to go ahead and show you my progress on this whip. A quick reminder, this is Children's Garden. And I had started this piece for the ABC Sal, and I've worked on it every month since then during that time, except this past month in February. I was working on the 12 Days of Christmas for the number 5, for the I in 5, and because it just worked out because of my stitching meetup that I swapped around the order of a few things. So anyway, that pushed Children's Garden off just a day or two, and I finally I got a 2-day rotation on it this time because in March I wanted to start on some of the sals for March for my Mirabillia sal and a couple of others that I'm going to participate in, which I'll tell you more about as the month goes on. So here's my progress on Children's Garden. The goal that I had for this time was to try to get the little boy stitched. I had the little boy down through the collar, from the top of his head to his collar when I started. And if I have a picture, I'll insert it for you. But this is where I am now. I did finish the little boy. So I have the 2 children now. So my next rotation, I plan on starting on the 2 garden tools that they're holding, and that'll take me to the bottom of the piece. They each have a garden tool, and then they have flowers and stuff that they're working on, and I'll start that. And then once I get to this border, because this border's already done, when I get over to this border, then I can start working my way up on both sides and across. So that's where we are. I love the colors. I think they're beautiful. And those 2 little children are precious. So that was a good progress for my 2 days. I was able to hit the goal, my little mini goal that I set for each of my pieces. So I wanted to share that with you. I appreciate you looking at it for a few minutes. And I will talk to you later in the week. And in the meantime, you guys have happy stitching. Bye. Good evening, everyone. Dina here to give you an update on my latest whip that I have finished my rotation on today. It is the 3rd of March, and this ends my rotation for now on my Mirabillia, which is Sleeping Beauty. Try to get some of that, there we go, some of the glare off of it there for you. She's coming along so well. I may pick her up again this month because there's a Mirabillia Sal in Stitch from Stash. This is March. M is for Mirabillia. I also am involved in the Mini of Mirabillia Facebook group that Terry Montgomery has. And there is a Cross Stitch and Discuss year-long sal for Mirabillia. So there are 3 different places that I am tracking along, showing progress of my Mirabillia. Therefore, if I have time this month, I may pick her up again and work on her. But I do have a shorter time this month to stitch because of some traveling I'll be doing. So I want to show you my progress I've made so far and share with you how excited I am that I have met my little goal that I set for myself. So I'll insert a picture here of where she was before when I started this month. And here she is now. I'll see if I can make sure you get the whole picture. There you go. There she is. I'm so excited. My goal, if you'll recall, was to stitch all the way across and connect the two sides. So I've done that. So excited about that. And the biggest thing I'm happy about, she met up exactly the way she should. I can't tell you how excited I was when that happened. I had part of the upper portion of that bedpost there completed. So I had to finish that and come on down. And then I had stopped the last time. I'll fold her back so I can show you. I had stopped the last time, if you'll recall, right in here because I said there was a big color change and it made a good sense to me to stop. So I stitched from that purpley blue part all the way to the other end and completed that post from about here down. So that's what I got done this time. I'm pretty pleased with that progress. And now I actually have to make additional working copies because I've almost reached the end of the piece that I had copied and pasted together. And now I've got to get the bottom half put together so I can start on her next time. So I'm real tickled about that. So the next thing I want to talk to you about are plans for March. Haven't had a lot of time to discuss that with you, but I want to do that. March is going to be a big month for me for travel. I'm going to Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm going to meet my adopted sister Stephanie there. We are celebrating both of our birthdays together this year, not on either of our birthdays, but in the middle. But we're going to go there, and we are going to spend about 3 days there. And while we're there, we are going to visit Stitcher's Paradise. I can hardly wait. I can hardly wait. We haven't decided what day of our time there that we're going to spend a part of that day at Stitcher's Paradise, but we'll probably decide that as soon as we get there. And we're going to do a little sightseeing and we're going to go to a concert. So I think it'll be a wonderful time to celebrate together. And at the end of the month, I'm going to be going, as I've told you many times, because I'm so excited about it, to Indiana. And I'm going to go to the Fancy Works Stitching Retreat where Vanna Pfeiffer is going to be teaching. And I've signed up for both of her classes. So I'm excited about that and can hardly wait to meet her. And there are several people who've notified me that they're going to be at the retreat and they would love to have an opportunity for us to stitch together and talk a little bit. So I'm greatly looking forward to that. So if you're going to be there, please wave at me, tell me who you are, and give me an opportunity to meet you in person. I would love to do that. So considering that I'm going to be gone probably about a week to a week and a half of the month, part of that I won't be stitching at all while I'm with my sister, but I will be stitching quite a bit, hopefully, at the retreat, but part of that time will be classes. So I really have no clue how much I'm going to get done this month. So to have already met my goal on Sleeping Beauty is a real plus, because that was a huge win for me. I've been wanting to see, a good bit of progress on her, and I had the last few rotations been kind of bogged down trying to get that 1/1 skin finished. And now I moved so much quicker this time. I just felt like I saw so much progress this time. So that was good. That was encouraging. I am working on Four Freedoms as well, and I should have an update on that pretty quickly because I worked on Four Freedoms while we were at our stitching meetup this past weekend, and I'm still working on it because I haven't put in enough time on it to feel like I've actually given it time for a rotation yet. So I'll probably do another day on that before I report on it. And then looking at the rest of the month, I have several sales that I'm working on. One of which is the spring sale. There's another or one or two sales that I'm going to be working on through Stitch Mania. So I've got everything written down in my planner, and I'm looking at it again just to make sure it's all going to fit with all the travel. And I will have a better idea probably the next time we speak about what I can accomplish. I'm still hoping to get a 4th of July ornament in this month, and you know, that's giving me some small finishes that helps my budget in the Stitch from Stash. So I would like to do that, but I haven't started one yet. So I'll have to look and see if maybe this weekend would be the time to do that. I'll be packing to go on my first trip. So I have a lot going on, and I'm just having a ball. I'm having so much fun. I'm still excited from having met all the stitchers this past weekend, and actually think I found a new floor stand that I want to look at. I may have to wait and order that after Stitch from Stash is over, because it would ruin my budget for the whole thing. I'd have to resign it. So I may have to be patient before I order it. But I am thoroughly still enjoying stitching. I have had very little occurrences of losing my stitchy bug since I started FlossTube. I may have a day or two here or there where I'm just not in the mood to stitch that day, and I try to use those days to do other crafts, or I try to use those days to do some deep cleaning, around the house, things that I've probably you don't do all the time, but when you have a moment, you take the time to do that. So just saying that I am thoroughly enjoying stitching with all of you. I love your videos. I watch FlossTube almost all day long. I've actually been known to take it and put it in front of the treadmill. I have put it in my kitchen while I'm cooking. I just love watching you guys and listening to what you're working on and getting inspired by all of you. Now I have to find me a dough bowl. Never even knew about dough bowls, but now I have to have one because they're beautiful, and I love the idea of putting the smalls in them. That's great. I'm going to have to look for one. So if you guys know of any good places to find them, put it below and let me know. That'll be one of my new shopping trips. I think that I've never been a little more surprised than I was the other day when Stephanie from Lindy Stitches actually gave me the Tag You're Awesome honors, and I am just tickled pink that she did that. That was so kind of her. Thank you, Stephanie, if you're watching. So I think the rule of thumb there is that you're supposed to pass it along. So my first Tag You're Awesome, I'd like to send out to Cowgirl Kate, because Cowgirl Kate is just awesome. I love her, and I love her channel. I love the updates that she sends out when she has the little newborn babies on the farm. I love the different art that she shows in her painting, and I love her heart, how she really championed her Indian friends this year, and she designed Hope, to raise money for them. She puts her talent and her time and her heart into other people. And so, Kate, I think you're awesome. For my second Tag You're Awesome, I had a really hard time. I think so many of you guys are awesome. I really do. And it's extremely hard to pick one person. I've thought of several, and I wish I could just do you all. So I don't know why we limited it to 2. Maybe we should do 2 every time. That might be what I try to do. I think for this time, though, the Tag You're Awesome has to go to Vanna Pfeiffer. You're awesome. You really are. I think Vanna is awesome for many, many reasons. One, I think she is a beautiful stitcher. I think she's a talented artist. I love her finishes. That's why I'm going to take her classes. I love the way that she shares her talent. All her tutorials, things that she does for a living. you know, she shares with us. We can get it for free. I think that is true giving. And I also follow Vonna on Facebook. We're friends on Facebook, and I see how much she does with her community, her church, her friends, and her family. And I think that she is a truly awesome lady. I am very grateful that she reached out with a shout out to my channel. I really think that I made 1,000 subscribers because of the shout out that she gave me and others. But she was one of the first. And I actually had people in their comments say to me, I came to your channel because Vonna told me to. So, Vonna, thank you. And I think you're awesome. And I just may have to say that about several other people before this video is done. But I think that was a great idea Jessie Marie started, and I think it's very fun to get to honor each other and say why we think you're so awesome. But there are just so many that I would want to put in that category. I think anyone who has taken their effort and energy and time to share on FlossTube their talents, their aspirations, you know, their works in progress, their goofs, you know, their mistakes, things they've learned the hard way. I think that makes us a pretty awesome bunch of people, you know. We are truly sharing our lives with each other, our craft with each other, and I've never met a group of people in my life that are more caring, kind, and supportive than the people on FlossTube as a group, you know. I've heard many of you say that as well, so I'm not alone in feeling that. But I just wanted to go ahead and tell you guys who I was passing the tag along to, and I hope that all of you have a fabulous, happy day of stitching. And until we meet again, good night. Good afternoon, everyone. Dina back again. I wanted to give you a bit of an update on my next whip. I've been working on Little House Needleworks for Freedoms, and I'll remind you of what that looks like. Try to keep the glare off of it as much as I can. This is supposed to be my centerpiece for my 4th of July ornaments and things that I'm trying to make for this year. So I'll try to insert a picture if I have one here of where I started on this. And now I'll show you where I got to. I took this piece with me for the Stitching Meetup because I felt like it would be one that I could work on without losing my concentration and still be able to visit and talk. Then when I got home, I wanted to work on it just one more day so that I would feel like I had gotten enough time in it for my full rotation for this month, and not ignore or give it a slight of any kind. So here's where we are now. When I picked this up this weekend, I had started with finishing off this little side of the house here that was, I had to stop on it because I had run out of a thread, and then I got my threads back. So I finished up the first 2 sayings. I had worked on one of them, and I finished up the girl's face. I didn't have her face done before. In fact, she didn't have a head at all. And I did change one thing. I don't know if you'll be able to make it out or not, but on the pattern she has French knots for her eyes, and in hickory sticks, which I have done, but she had a French knot in that red color there for her mouth, and I just didn't want her to have a French knot mouth. So I went ahead and did a tiny little smile instead. But I finished the little girl and flag and everything, and then went on down here and started the flowers that are in the basket. So I've done all of that variegated kind of a goldish green color there in the basket. All the leaves and stems are now done. So I can start, as you can see, I've got one of the flowers in the red done right there. So let me back up and give you the picture. I think you can see that. Okay. That's where we are on the Four Freedoms. I think this is beautiful. It's on 28 count cashel linen, and the color is ale. And I am thoroughly enjoying working on this. It's a picture of this plus fabric. So I'm going to be putting it away for this month. I think that's a great amount of progress for March. And then I have April and May left. So on my next rotation, I'm going to have a goal of finishing the basket, all the flowers and the basket. And then on my final rotation, hopefully I can get the two birds and the words done and take it off and have it framed for July. So that means I would be through with it hopefully by the end of May. So we'll see if I can get that done. But I am enjoying making these small goals and trying to hit small goals, because I can, in any case, if I've hit my goal, I can actually put the piece away if I want to and start working on something earlier than my 3-day rotation. Or I can just keep working and get a little extra done, depending on what the mood is. So if it's a piece that I'm kind of pushing myself to work on and I'm not enjoying it maybe as much as others, I may stop as soon as I hit that goal and move on. So it gives me a little bit of freedom to not have to be stitching on something I'm not enjoying as much as everything else for very long. Because there are some pieces you enjoy more than others. You know how that is. I did mention in my last snippet here where I was telling you my update on Sleeping Beauty that I was going to try to mention some floss tubers for the rest of this video that I'm putting together for this month in the spirit of Tag You're Awesome. So I do have two that I want to mention for this update. And the first one is Courtney from Courtney ECR. I think Courtney is delightful. If you aren't watching her, check out her channel, Courtney ECR. She is a young woman who is beautifully cross-stitching large pieces. She's doing a full coverage piece, and she's done the Christmas Village and some beautiful pieces that she's framed to put up in her bathroom. And I love her aesthetic. I think she has a great taste. I like the choices that she makes in what she works on and how she finishes them. And it's so wonderful to see a young woman picking up this craft and just embracing it so much. I think one of my favorite episodes of all, Courtney, if you're watching, is when you interviewed your grandmother and she talked about her cross-stitch years and what she had made for you and taught you. And I think that was just delightful. So I wanted to mention that. And then I'd like to also mention Mumula Stitches and just say that how much I enjoy her cross-stitch. She has a wonderful array of projects. Many of them are full coverage. She's just doing some beautiful work, and she has a large number of finishes. She reminds me a little bit of myself in the way she stitches, because she's a stay-at-home mom and she has time when she's not having to help her husband in his shop, and she gets a lot of time to stitch. And I am very blessed right now that I'm getting a lot of time to stitch. And so I really love to see what Davina's been working on and how far she's gotten, because I know she puts probably the same number of hours in that I do, and it's encouraging to see how far she's come. And I also love it when her son drops by and says hi. I think he's very interested in what she does, and they seem to have a wonderful relationship. And I have a son that I'm very close friends with, and I love it when he comes to check on what I'm working on, and he gives me great ideas of things to share with you guys on the channel. So I guess I feel sort of a kinship with her in a way, and I just wanted to mention her. So tag Courtney and tag Devonna. You're both wonderful. You're both awesome, and I hope everyone that maybe hasn't seen you before will go and check out your channels. So in the meantime, guys, happy stitching, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye. Hello everyone, Dina back again, and I just wanted to do a brief explanation of the final little pictures that I'm going to put on this episode today before I upload it for you. I'm back from my Las Vegas trip. I went to Stitcher's Paradise, and I'm very excited to say I was given a gift of some money to spend there, and I went in and I was able to kit up a couple of projects. So I'm pretty excited about that. Mostly just threads. So I just wanted to tell you about it. But I've got pictures that I'm going to insert at the end here of the door to the Stitcher's Paradise. I was jokingly telling my sister Stephanie this is the door to paradise. And the store is wonderful. It had everything you could imagine, every type of thread I wanted. They have ribbon, they have all the different brand names of things that I am finding are called for on, patterns that I'm looking at now, like the Gloriana silks or the Karen Water lilies, or they even had Karen Water flowers. I think that's what they're called. Anyway, it was fabulous, and the owner of the store is named Gina, and she was very helpful and told me that she will mail things if people want to order. She mails things to them, so all you'd have to do is call and ask if they have it and how much it would be to ship it to you. And of course, that way you're supporting a local needlework shop, even long distance. So I'll put her information in the comments below, so you'll have her name and phone number. But the ladies there were absolutely fabulous to help me. And I will tell you, if you ever get an opportunity to go to Las Vegas, be sure you put on your plans to go to Stitcher's Paradise. They have an entire room full of fabric, and they cut it for you either in a quarter, a fat quarter, or a fat half, or a whole yard. Those are the 3 cuts they do, but you can just about accommodate anything with one of those. So I wanted to share with you a couple of quick things, and then I'm going to put the pictures at the end from my trip, and then that'll be it for this this first half of March. Can you believe it's almost half over? I will tell you the trip was fabulous. A little bit of traveling difficulties for my sister Stephanie on the way out there. They had tornadoes in where she lives out in the Midwest the day before she was to fly to meet me. And because of that, the next day when she got to the airport, they told her they still had tornadic winds up in the upper atmosphere where the planes would be, and they were not flying to Vegas. So instead of arriving in Las Vegas 5 minutes before I did, I wound up getting to Las Vegas 5 hours before she did, and had to take a shuttle to the hotel and wait until about 10 minutes or 5 minutes before midnight is when she finally got there. And I felt so sorry for her. She'd been traveling all day long. I think they routed her first to Charleston, South Carolina, and then from there to Las Vegas. And there were layovers. She had to wait for a flight to Charleston and then have a layover in Charleston. So it was a long day. But I tell you what, we had a ball. We had such a good time. We went shopping, and we went to Planet Hollywood and looked at lots of shops there. We ate there. We went to a concert there. And then the next day we went to the Venetian and shopped all around in the Venetian. And I even got a video, which is poor quality of sound, or I would put it on here for you. But it was the gondolas that they, go through the Venetian, and the gondola pilots, I guess, or drivers, are singing. And so I tried to capture that, but there's so much noise in there with all the people. It was kind of hard to hear him sing. But it was great fun, and we had a wonderful, wonderful dinner at Tao. It's a Pan Asian restaurant, and it was divine. It was just really was wonderful. So we ate our way through Las Vegas. Had a great time. Went back to Stitcher's Paradise the second day to look around again for my just for my pleasure, because I hadn't had a chance to really look around the first day. I was so busy kitting up the two projects that I had planned on doing with my gift. So I did have a sweet, sweet surprise from my sister. She said it was something she had wanted to give me for my birthday, but she didn't get it in time. And so she gave me this little box. It says filled with love. It was all wrapped up pretty. But in this box was the neatest thing I have to show you. And this came from John Kirsch, The Love of Wood. And this is made from almond wood. And I'm going to show you what it is, and then I'll put his information below as well. But this is what it looks like. It's like a really smooth, nice handle that you can grip, but you notice it has two ends. So they come out. It's a seam ripper. This is your normal size seam ripper for sewing. When you normally sew, you have a seam ripper that size. This is a smaller seam ripper specifically made for needlework, for frogging needlework. So isn't this beautiful? It's just gorgeous. So this is one of my new tools for my cross-stitch sewing area. I love it because it's for both. And I'll put it right here in my sewing desk, and I'll just have it available for whenever I need it. It comes in a beautiful purple pouch. It's just lovely. So my sister Stephanie spoils me, and that was just absolutely beautiful, and I'm so thrilled. So the last little bit of information that I will share with you today is that while I was waiting on my sister Stephanie at the hotel, and then a couple of times when we were sitting in the room talking or visiting with each other, or while I was waiting on her to get ready to go somewhere, I would just leave my cross stitch out on the desk there, and I was able to get some stitching done. So when last you saw this project, I had a goal that I wanted to finish up day 6, 7, and 8 of 12 Days of Christmas. And I am happy to report that I did already. So there's day 6, 6 geese a-laying. And then we have here 7 swans a-swimming. And I finished 8 maids a-milking as well. So now I just have 9, 10, 11, and 12. Unfortunately, they are the ones that I got the least amount of stitching done. So it may take me a couple of rotations to finish this, since I only work on it about 3 days at a time. But I just thought I'd go ahead and show you my update on that, since I had finished my little small goal for this rotation, and was ready to move on to my next whip. I will mention too, this month is the month that I go to the stitching retreat in Indiana and take classes with Vonna, and I'm so excited I can hardly stand it. So I would like to just say that I may be changing up what I work on for the rest of the month, because I want to plan on what I want to take to the retreat with me, and that may change up when I would be working on things. So I may focus on a finish the rest of the time that I'm home, and see if I can't get a lot closer to finishing one of my Year of Whip pieces, because everything I have left on those are so big that I think the extra work I could get on one of them would make me feel productive. So there's no telling what I may work on the rest of the month. My 3-day rotation may go out the window because of all the traveling for this month. But whatever I decide to do, I'll share it with you as I go. And I just hope that you have a fabulous rest of the month and have great stitching time. So stay tuned for a few pictures, not many, but a few of Las Vegas and of the Stitcher's Paradise, and look for the information below. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. I thank you for subscribing, and I appreciate your comments so much. I feel like we have a conversation when you comment and I get to answer you. So thank you for your spending your time with me. In the meantime, till I see you again, happy stitching. All right, here we go. I wanted to try to give you the process as best I could, so I've written out a few notes to help me walk you through it, and I've made a little diagram that I hope you will find helpful. So let's get started. To lay out a piece, what I have done is take the information that is known to me first and work with it, and then try to solve for what I don't know, the variables that I don't know. And unfortunately for me, my college calculus and algebra is not sharp enough in my memory to do it that way. So I'd have to do it an old-fashioned way, and I'll just share that with you. And then I'm looking forward to hearing from you ways that you might do this to make it easier. So the first thing I started with that I knew was the size of my fabric. So I have two ways you can do this. You can either have everything in inches or everything in stitches. And I decided to convert everything to stitches because I had my pattern information from my magazine in stitches, and I just thought it would be easier to keep it all in that one measurement. So the first thing I did was take my fabric, which was 20 by 24 inches, and convert that to stitches. I had 28 count fabric, so if I take the 20 times 28, I get 560 width, and my 24 inches long times 28 stitches per inch gives me 672 stitches. So my fabric measures 560 stitches by 672 stitches, and now I'm ready to make my layout because I know how much space I have to deal with. So I started with my width first because I felt like it would be the simplest, and I started with what I knew, which was the size of my fabric and the size of my pictures. And I decided I would start with an attempt of a 3-inch border in case I wanted to frame it when I got through with it. So I knew that a 3-inch border would equate to 84 stitches because I multiplied 3 times 28 stitches per inch, and I got 84 stitches. So I just took my inches and my border that I desired to have, multiplied it by the count of my fabric to come up with my stitches that it would be. Now, I also knew that each of my pictures was 45 stitches on 14 count, but I'm doing mine on 28 count. So I'm going to do it over 2. So I have to multiply that by 2 to come up with my 90 stitches for my 28 count. So be careful when you're doing this that you don't look at your motif on your pattern and it be like mine was, stitched on a 14 count fabric, and not make allowance for that on the fabric that you have. Just remember to check on that. So I had my 45 stitches on a 14 count converts to 90 stitches on my 28 count. So that meant I have 3 squares of 90 stitches because I wanted to lay mine out 3 motifs per row, and I was going to have 4 rows of those 3 motifs. So now I'm going to calculate up how many stitches I'm using so I can determine what I don't know, which is the space between the columns. So let me give you a visual of what I'm talking about. I wanted to lay mine out 3 across and 4 down that way. So I sketched that out, and I knew I had 560 by 672. So now I'm going to start working this row first. I knew I wanted 84 stitches for the border, which was a 3-inch border, and I knew each of these were 90. I knew I wanted 84 stitches for this border because I wanted them 3 inches on each side. So what I've got to determine is how big a space these 2 columns are going to be. So here's how I did it. I added up what I knew, my 2 borders right and left, 84 and 84. My 3 squares for my motifs, 90, 90, and 90. Then I just jumped over here and said, okay, that so far is 438 stitches. I know I have 560 to work with. So for my borders and my pictures, I have 438 stitches, which leaves me 122 stitches for my 2 columns. So if I divide that by 2, I get 61 each. So let's check it. So I go back over here where I've added up what I had used so far, and I put the 61 and 61 in there, and I come up with exactly 560 stitches. So I know that I can use my 3-inch borders on the sides and 61 stitches in between each of the motifs, and I've got my row. So here it is: 84, 90, 61, 90, 61, 90, and 84. And if you check it back like I did here, you come up with 560, so I know it'll fit. That's the easy part. For me, the length layout was just a little bit tougher. So let me show you how I started with that. There was a little bit of trial and error in this one, but here's what I started with. I start again with what I know. I know my fabric length. It's 672 stitches, or 24 inches if you recall. To determine my border allowance, I wanted to calculate my stitch space first. So I knew I had 4 squares of 90. So that's 360 stitches. But this one's a little more complicated because there's a saying at the top that says, "On the 12th days of Christmas, my true love gave to me." So my saying is 20 stitches tall, and I've got to have some space between it and the first row of my squares before I even begin with a border at the top. So I knew I wanted about 1 inch of space between my saying and my first row, simply because of how I thought it would look to be part of the picture. So for 1 inch, that's 28 stitches on a 28 count fabric. So here's what I know: 4 squares, because I have 4 rows of 3, 360 stitches, plus the height in stitches of my saying, which is my header on the top of my piece, and then the inch space between that saying and my first row. These are what I know. So that's 408 stitches out of the 672. So that left me with 264 stitches to calculate for my top and bottom border and the 3 rows between the squares. If you recall, here's 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Here is my saying that I've put up at the top on the 12 days of Christmas, and 28 stitches to make that inch. Now I'm trying to figure out my top and bottom borders and in between these 3 rows. So that's 5 spaces that I've got to calculate. They don't have to be the same. So I did a little trial and error. I started with, I'd like to have a 3-inch border. I tried it. It didn't work. I ran out of room. So I knew I couldn't get a 3-inch border top and bottom. So I felt like it was really important to try to get the right amount of space between the rows so that my piece looked uniform. I tried the 61 because that's what I had, up here between the two spaces that were between the 3 that made the columns. In between those 3, that was too much. So I went ahead then and said, okay, let's try a little bit less. I've got 4 rows. They can be a little bit closer than the columns in between. So I tried a couple of figures and I landed on 50 stitches. I took the 50 stitches. There are 3 rows of space between those 4 rows of squares. You have a top row and then you got a space. Second row and space, third row and space. So there are 3 spaces that I needed to account for. So that's 3 rows of 50 for 150. Added to the 408 I've already used, that gives me 558. That left me 114 stitches for my top and bottom border. So if you divide it by 2, you get 57 stitches. Then I went back and checked the math again. I added everything up, included the 2 borders I just calculated, and I come up with 672 stitches. So that's my double checking to make sure that once I've picked how many stitches everything is going to be, that it still totals no more than what I have available to work with. So let's look at that now visually. Up here, I'm going to have a 57 stitch border. I'm going to have 20 stitches for my saying. I'm going to have 28 stitches to put that 1 inch in between the saying and the top row. Then each of my squares are 90 stitches. I'm going to have 50 stitches between each of the 4 rows. There's my 90 stitches again, my space, my 90 stitches, my space, my 90 stitches, and then my bottom border is 57 stitches. And remember, we check the math and it comes up to 672 stitches. So let me just walk you through it kind of in summary. You take what you know, you take the size of your fabric, you take the size of your motifs or your picture that you're going to do, you take any other information, like a header, and then you add that up and see what you have left, and you start whittling away. You take out how much space you want in between a header and the piece, or a border and the piece if you have a border, and then you just figure out what you need for space in between the rows or columns and how much you're going to have for your borders. Now, it's truly a trial and error. If you try one and it doesn't work out perfectly, then adjust the figures that you can. You can only adjust spaces that are not stitched. So you can adjust space that was a border or you can adjust space that was a column or a row that was empty in between. This is my piece. Now, I'm sorry I don't have a blank piece that I can grid to show you, but I'll walk you through what I did. Once I had this drawn out on paper with all my measurements here, I used it with my piece, and I took my sulky sliver and I counted exactly what I had said I was going to have. I was going to have a 3-inch border at the top. I'm sorry, a 3-inch border from the side, and I was going to have 57 stitches from the top. So I counted down and over, and I drew a box with my sulky sliver that was going to be the space allocated for these 20 stitches that I needed, or 20 stitches because it's over 2, on the fabric for the header. And I got that right here. And then I went down for the 28 stitches here to give me that 1 inch in between. And I took my sulky sliver and I made boxes for each of these in my sulky sliver. Now they've been stitched now, but they were just little green boxes. You can see the green here is my sulky sliver that drew I had drawn the boxes around. Once I got all my 12 boxes drawn, I checked visually to see, okay, how do they look laid out apart? How does this space look? And how does this space look? And do they look even? And I think they do look quite even. I'm sorry I can't get the whole thing here. But I think it looks pretty even, and I was happy with that. And I could see that with those boxes before I ever started stitching anything. Then to help in my stitching, rather than grid all this fabric, I'm only stitching inside here. So I gridded each of my 12 boxes. And just for the ease for me, I used a different color of sulky sliver so I could see the green, as you can see down here, this green. And then I used an orange color in here, so that would make it easier for me to see. Now this is the piece I started for the Christmas Stitchmas, and so I started number 1 on Christmas Day, and each day I started a different one. So I've gone back now in my whip rotation, and I finished day 1 and day 2, and I'll be starting on day 3 the next time I work on this piece. But to calculate the layout, that is the process that I went through. And then to double check visually, I went ahead and gridded the outline of my boxes so that I would see how it was going to look. Now, if you're not doing something that's perfectly square like this, which chances are you are not, you may not be able to grid your boxes, but you could just sort of eyeball your fabric and cut out paper the size of your pictures if you want, and place them on your fabric so you could see, you know, how they look. But if you calculate it carefully, I think you'll be okay. And then if you have a header or a border or something that you could stitch first to see how it's going to lay on your fabric, then I recommend you do that. So then you can double check yourself. I hope this has been helpful. I know it was a little technical and kind of boring, but it did help me to lay this piece out, and that's exactly the process that I use now for anything else. And I will tell you, this one was easy because all of these are the same size. I just tried yesterday laying out with this same process a piece that I was planning on doing for hometown holidays, and every one of those pieces are a different height and a different width from each other, and that has proved to be quite difficult to pick where I want to place them. And I actually worked out about 4 or 5 options by moving them around, trying to get the rows even lengths, and I couldn't do it. So after working with it for a while and realizing that that fabric was 32 count and my pictures are going to be quite small, it doesn't lend itself to one picture any longer. It really lends itself more to Christmas tree ornaments. So I think I'm going to do it that way. So trying to calculate a layout sometimes can help you decide to stitch it in a different manner than you were thinking. So I hope this works for you. If you have some suggestions for me that would make my process easier than what I've laid out for you, please do give me your pointers. And in the meantime, you guys, happy stitching. Bye.